Jay Fallon, and this is the slippery slope. So, manipulation and control. It's all about it. The Australian federal government announced last week the uh, the new emissions goal target. The Korean Mail reported that Australia's 2035 emissions reduction target, broadly expected, this was last week, to be somewhere between 58 and 70%, with the Labor government set to argue it is striking the right balance on the path to net zero. Obviously, it's all been announced. Some people are up in arms. As they expected, the Greens were up in arms saying, hey, it's not enough. The Liberals, Nationals saying it's too much, all this kind of thing. So they've declared the target would be controversial. That's kind of what they were hoping for. The Climate Change Authority, whose advice Mr. Bowen, presented to the cabinet before the final target was approved and announced, had been consulting on a target of between 65 and 75%. In another article that was released last week, this headline came up. Brisbane could flood 314 days a year, and heat-related deaths in Townsville could increase by up to 350% by the end of the century, according to new government modelling. The inaugural climate risk assessment found that across the country, more than 1.5 million will be at risk of sea level rise by 2050. Property values will decrease while insurance premiums skyrocket, and climate change will put the country's health systems, infrastructure, and defence force under very high to severe risk. The landmark and confronting report found Australians are already experiencing the impacts of climate change, but people in Northern Australia will be increasingly exposed to natural disasters over coming decades. The Queensland Conservation Council said the findings needed to be a wake up call to state and federal governments. It's not enough anymore for governments to fund recovery after a disaster has struck. They need to proactively invest in community resilience to minimize the damage and protect us all before it happens. That's what Director Dave Copeman said. Global warming will also put the country's farming sectors at risk, with high temperatures to severely impact cattle herds, putting Australia's most valuable farming export in jeopardy. Cumulative wealth loss from reduced agriculture and labor productivity would exceed 4.2 trillion by 2100. Meanwhile, modeling for heat-related deaths suggests a 2 degrees centigrade increase in global warming could trigger 150% increase in Townsville's mortalities, while a 3 degree centigrade increase would mean that skyrockets to almost 350%. The government has also released, I believe, the National Adaptation Plan, which it says it will work closely with the states and territories to implement. So, in other words, it's all for our safety, our health, our safety. That's what all this is about. They're working together to force all these goals upon us. The funny thing is, I was thinking, I was born. I'm a Gen X, okay, born in the 70s. I'm like in the middle of the road for Gen X, and I was thinking, man, I could have sworn when I was, first in school, early school in the 80s. I could have sworn I remembered hearing talk about global cooling. So I found this headline: Time magazine, 1974. It's actually published June 24, 1974. The headline says another ice age? Question mark. Goes on to talk about how in Africa, drought continues for the sixth consecutive year, adding terribly to the toll of famine victims. During 72, record rains in parts of the US, Pakistan, and Japan caused some of the worst flooding in centuries. In Canada's wheat belt, a particularly chilly and rainy spring has delayed planting and may well bring a disappointingly small harvest. Rainy Britain, on the other hand, has suffered from uncharacteristic dry spells the past few springs. A series of unusually cold springs has gripped the American far west, while New England and Northern Europe have recently experienced the mildest winters within anyone's recollection. As they review the bizarre and unpredictable weather pattern of the past several years, a growing number of scientists are beginning to suspect that many seemingly contradictory meteorological fluctuations are actually part of global climatic upheaval. However, widely the weather varies from place to place and time to time. When meteorologists take an average of temperatures around the globe, they find that the atmosphere, has been growing gradually cooler for the past 3 decades. This was written in 74, so somewhere from the 40s onwards, it's been getting cooler for 3 decades. The trend shows, how's this? No indication of reversing. No indication. In 74, there was no indication it was going to reverse. Climatological Cassandras are becoming increasingly apprehensive for the weather aberrations they are studying may be the harbinger of another ice age. Well, golly gee, 70s, nearly the mid 70s, we've had 3 decades of this. It's getting cooler, and we're going to have an ice age. So, Stephen Schneider, in 1971, he published The Cooling, warning of the consensus within the scientific community of global cooling. In 1976, he published The Genesis Strategy, warning of future famines and climate-related disasters. In 2009, Schneider published Conserving the Climate. Will Greenland's melting ice the deal? Question mark. So somewhere along the line, Schneider changed from global cooling to global warming, all while consulting with federal agencies and White House staff over 6 administrations. So well over 2 decades of consulting with the White House, getting paid to be a consultant. This is what he's come up with. This is just one of many experts and government consultants over the decades who have proclaimed the impending climate disaster, helping shape a narrative that big government, lots of bureaucratic red tape, rules and regulations, and ultimately complete and utter government control is the only thing that could possibly save mankind from this impending, possible, may happen, could possibly happen, definitely could happen sometime in the near, possibly long future doom. And the Australian government is all a part of it. So let's check out a couple of different headlines. This blog space, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, with Murin Ebel and Stephen Malloy in 2019. They posted this: wrong again, 50 years of failed eco-pocalyptic predictions. Let's go through all the headlines. So in 1975, not in 1975, but in 1967, it was predicted that we would have dire famine by 1975. Los Angeles, it is already too late for the world to avoid a long period of famine, a Stanford University biologist said. It's already too late. They were going to have global famine by 75. This other article, and this is again in 1969, everything will disappear in a cloud of blue steam by 1989. That was in the New York Times. That's what it said, the headline. In the Boston Globe, this is in Thursday, April 16, 1970. It says, the headline says, scientist predicts a new ice age by the 21st century. Now, remember, this is currently 2025, so we're well and truly into the 21st century. It says air pollution may obliterate, may. They love to put down may, could, possible, may obliterate the sun and cause a new ice age in the first third of the next century. First third. Well, we're 2025. We should be all freezing in here. In 1970, this headline came out. Dr. Ehrlich, I don't know how you pronounce his name, outspoken ecologist to speak. So he warns, he's predicted the oceans will be as dead as Lake Erie in less than a decade. Less than a decade. America will be subject to water rationing by 1974 and food rationing by 1980. This next headline, this is 1971. US scientist sees new ice age coming. This is a Dr. Rasool of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and Columbia University. So that obviously that's going to happen. Has to happen. This headline in 1974, The Guardian, space satellites show new ice age coming fast. Coming fast. This is the experts. We had the other headline here, the Time one from 1974, telling us, yep, this is all going to happen. It goes on in another part, says, telltale signs are everywhere. This is the Times article. They're everywhere, from the unexpected persistence and thickness of pack ice in the waters around Iceland to the southward migration of a warm, loving creature like the armadillo from the Midwest. Ice Age has to happen. That was the Times magazine. 1974, another article in Time. Great peril to life. Gas tears away Earth's ozone. I remember there was a lot of talk about the ozone in the 80s when I was in school. In 1988, the Miami News, the headline says, more droughts likely. Experts tell senators. Isn't it funny? All these experts are able to tell all these senators these things which will definitely, possibly, could, maybe happen, and they're all getting paid really good money for it. 1988, prepare for long, hot summers, as opposed to all those long, hot summers in the 1970s and 60s that everyone talked about, but prepare for more long, hot summers. The Canberra Times, as in Canberra, Australia. This headline in 1988. September 26, 1988. The headline says threat to islands. The Maldives. A gradual rise in average sea level is threatening to completely cover this Indian Ocean nation of 1,196 small islands within the next 30 years, according to authorities. Authorities, that's what they've told us. Of but the end of the Maldives and its 200,000 people could come sooner if drinking water supplies dry up by, guess when? 1992, as predicted. That was the Canberra Times. Thank you, Canberra. In 1989, this came out. New York's City West Side Highway will be underwater by 2019. Didn't happen. None of it happened. What's else? Snowfalls are now just a thing of the past. Apparently, that was going to happen. The Guardian. The Guardian. This is in 2002. Famine in 10 years. Why vegans were right all along. Now the Pentagon tells Bush climate change will destroy us. In 2004, Britain to have Siberian climate by 2020. 2008, the Arctic will be ice-free by 2018. NASA scientists say, we're toast. Hansen, echoing work by other scientists, said that in 5 to 10 years, the Arctic will be free of sea ice in the summer. That was in 2008. In 2008, Al Gore, remember him? He was the vice president of America there for a while. So Al Gore warned us all of ice-free Arctic by 2013. Al Gore predicted the North Polar ice cap would be gone. Inconveniently, still there. He predicted that was going to happen. Gore made the prediction to a German TV audience at the COP15 climate conference. Or how about this headline? 2009. Prince Charles says there's only 8 years to save the planet. Just 96 months to save the world, says Prince Charles, now King Charles. In 2013, it predicted that Arctic ice-free by 2016. US Navy predicts summer ice-free Arctic by 2016. In 2014, this headline came out, only 500 days before climate chaos. A French foreign minister, 500 days to avoid climate chaos. And then you had the headline, planet still standing, 500 days after French foreign minister warned of climate chaos. This is all about manipulation and control. The whole climate emissions rubbish, they've been going on with this rhetoric for the last 60, 70, 80 years. They just twist it around and change it. You've got the same group of experts coming in, just getting paid by whatever government is in charge at the time, saying, "Hey, this is where we want to go. This is the narrative. This is the goal that we have, and we want you to help us achieve the goal by scaring the public. Tell us that we're all going to die if we don't do this. If we don't get our emissions down, then we're all going to die. If we don't all stop running diesel vehicles, then we're all going to die. If we don't all do this, well, the ice caps are going to melt. If we don't all do that, well, then actually the ice caps are going to continue to freeze over, and we're all going to have a new ice age." So, like I said in the other episode, they cause a problem. The government causes a problem, then offers the solution. They tell us that this is a problem, even if it's not really a problem. They get in the experts, they pay the experts to tell us that this is a problem, even though they can't prove that it's actually a problem, even though that all their experts and their predictions have never actually proven to be right over the years. They still get in more experts, tell us that you have to believe us, and then they provide a solution that's just going to cost trillions and trillions of dollars, and we all have to. They put out all these figures, which, to be honest, they're way too big. You can't even comprehend the sums of money that they're talking about. You can't even comprehend the things that they're really talking about. So it's like, we'll all just go ahead and do this. We'll all just be the sheep and just follow along and believe whatever you're saying. They're just manipulating us so they can control us, because they tell us what they want us to believe. It's all centered about stirring up fear, sensationalism. The government places itself as God. It says that we don't need God. We don't have a God. We are God. Whether it's not having access to our own money from the bank, or accessing anything online, or having cheap, reliable energy to be able to access, the government is there manipulating, coercing, dividing, and controlling. Ultimately, placing itself as the new God of the nation. I do not for a second believe that that our world is going to be flooded because of climate change. I do not for a second believe that the little coastal town that I live in, where I'm like about 500 meters from the ocean, 500 meters, I don't believe it's going to be flooded because of climate change. Now, we may have a big storm, we may have a cyclone, and some of the houses, some of the silly people, I think, because all these new people have moved into town, they've all bought the houses right on the beach. Crazy, just dumb. But anyway, whatever, you do you. I think, we might have a cyclone come in and wipe some of those places out. Well, that's the chance that you take if you want to go and buy a house built on sand. But I don't think it's going to be because of climate change. This is just general weather that's happened for decades and decades and hundreds of years. This is what happens. Climate changes. We have droughts, we have floods, we have famines, we have hot spells, we have cold spells. In the 70s, they told us that the world's been getting colder for decades, and we're definitely going to have an ice age. Now, the world's been getting hotter for decades, and it's definitely going to keep going on, and it can't be reversed unless we all change the way we do things. If we all spend our money a certain way the government tells us to spend our money, if we all do what the government tells us. I don't believe for a second that any of these things are going to happen. This is just about manipulation and control, and the government placing itself as the God of our nation, because it rejects the God of the Bible and it wants to be God. That's all this is. This is all just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Do you believe in climate change? If you do, hey, good on you. Go ahead. Live long and prosper. But we'll see what happens. I don't think any of these things are about to happen. I think things are going to change because of what the Bible says and how the Bible says things are going to change. Nothing to do with the climate change gibberish that goes on. This is all just my opinion. Please let me know what you think. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna